Leverage Your Influence, the podcast where we hear the stories of leaders, creators, and entrepreneurs who have leveraged their influence, income, and impact through podcasting. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from a serial podcaster and a podcast coach who has not just one, not just two, not just three, not just four, not just five, but 6 podcasts. Our guest today is Roy Coughlan. And Roy, we welcome you to the Leverage Your Influence podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. And you have a very good voice for podcasting.
Oh, you're too kind, my friend. So first of all, where in the world are you currently? And where do you call home?
So I'm currently in a place called Łódź in Poland, in the center of Poland. It's the second biggest city, and home is the second city in Ireland, Cork, which is in the south of Ireland.
Amazing, amazing. So you are an Irish man in Poland.
Exactly. When most of the Poles were going to Ireland, I went the opposite direction and people were questioning it, but turned out for the better.
Awesome, awesome. Love it. Against the grain. So Roy, you host 6 podcasts. That's incredible. How did you first get into podcasting, and what motivated you to have more than one podcast?
So I was doing a lot of real estate. When the crash happened in the States, it took a while to come across. I was doing okay at a lot of syndicates, got wiped out eventually, and I was personally liable for 5 million because I was the president of a lot of companies. Cleared the decks, but saw a lot of corruption. Went to an event, What's Your Quest? And at that event, I said, okay, I need to expose this. That was basically, okay, I need to stop people, because there was lots of marriages, lots of suicides and everything because of losing everything. And I also hated public speaking. And there was brilliant speakers there. So when I came back, I said, I need to overcome this fear. And I joined Toastmasters, joined another Toastmasters, formed my own club, became a coach, and just entered every competition, got into the final of 5 countries, done an open mic TEDx, done open comedy, and basically overcame my fear of public speaking. And at another event, there was a guy teaching people how to podcast. And I said, oh, this is a good way of me of getting my message out. And I kind of expected for exposing fraud and corruption, I'd be attacked, and it's good to learn my kind of trade. I said, speaking would be a good way. So about 7 years ago, my very first podcast was the speaking podcast. And then kind of built it from there. Meditation, learn Polish, eventually the awakening, which is one exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions, the crypto, and the latest one is the Podfather, which is helping people like you, existing podcasters or people wanting to start, where I'm just sharing lots of tips because I want to keep them in the game and get away from things like CNN, BBC, and all this where they're just regurgitating lies. Podcasters share better information.
Oh, phenomenal. And that is quite of a journey for you to go from dabbling into public speaking and getting into podcasting and realizing that you can pod hack your way to success. And you have podcasted about numerous topics and subjects. So what advice would you give about the tone, the style, the content from different shows, and how we can be specific with each different podcast?
The first thing I'd say is if you have knowledge, just start the show to get the information out to people. Don't worry about the numbers, because if our conversation helped one person, would you still have that conversation?
Yeah.
And you would. And it'll reach one person. And eventually there's the ripple effect. And you don't know the kind of knock-on effect in the household and everything. So you can, like the fact that I've got 6 kind of totally different podcasts, it means you can do anything. You don't need to be a specialist in the field either. You can be curious about a subject and invite specialists in. And like that's with the crypto. I mean, I had read a load of books on crypto and I was baffled. It was bamboozled. I didn't understand it. I started getting in people. And based on my questions, I'd experienced people that were well into crypto that were like, ooh, I didn't know that based on the questions I was asking. So sometimes you can really get knowledgeable by doing that. And you're changing your life as well regarding health and everything. Just people come on and I go, I didn't know that. It doesn't necessarily mean that when somebody says something, I'll believe it, but I'll go, ooh, that's interesting. I'll go and get books, research further, and then go, okay, they were right. I need to change this. So there's so many different advantages to podcasting.
That is well stated, Roy. And I agree. I believe that podcasting is one of the best ways for personal development to happen rapidly. You're always growing and learning from other people, and you're connecting with others. And it's just a wonderful way to grow as a person. Now, what has been one of the most unexpected challenges for you to run multiple shows?
I there's a few mistakes I made. So one, with the speaking, I was first of all, I said, if I double the shows, if I do two a week instead of one, will my audience double? And it tripled. And I was like, okay, this is good. And everything was going all right. I think it was around a year or two. I said, I'll take a bit of time off at Christmas, which turned out to be maybe 2 months. And I came back thinking all my listeners were there waiting on their chairs for me. And no, they were not. People kind of remove because I'd made the mistake of not telling them. So you can have seasons,
Mm,
but let them know, hey, we're taking the month off, we're taking the summer off, whatever you're doing. But please make sure you tell the listeners because I didn't do that. And I
yeah.
had to build it up again. So
Wow.
that's,
That's a
yeah.
great point. Sometimes we think that we have to podcast for life without taking a break, but when you pause, at least be transparent with your audience so they know you're taking a break for 1 month or 3 months. They're not assuming that you just pod faded and they unsubscribe, because we're in a time where people who listen to podcasts, they subscribe to several. It's not just you they're listening to. And so be transparent with your audience and they will continue to journey with you, but don't give them an excuse to jump off and to subscribe to someone else. Great point, Roy. So,
And
as a
there's another one
podcast,
actually with if you're co-hosting, because this is one that a lot of people I've seen make the mistake. So a lot of people would get into like co-hosting and everyone is excited about doing this together. And everyone has different expectations of what the other person is going to do. And usually they come to a clash. It's like a relationship or a business. And what happens is nobody wants to let go and they just let it sizzle. So what
wow,
I recommend to people is put it in writing what's who's doing what, and if it goes pear-shaped, who's taking over. Because
wow.
there's nothing worse. I've seen a few shows that were brilliant. They fell out, and instead of one continuing it, it just sizzled. And then they have to go in and set up their own, and they could lose a massive audience. So I would say put out your expectations at the start, and hopefully it works out. But if it doesn't, at least there's a plan.
Yeah, that's so good. A lot of times people don't think about the future and they assume it's going to work out, but have a plan in case it doesn't so that you know how to take action to keep it alive or to pivot. Because some people, they get to the point where they have to get a pod dealer to help them sell their podcast, and they're fighting about who owns the podcast, and so have it written on paper. And so that's valuable advice to someone for the years to come. Now, you have served as a podcast coach helping others. What do you think is the biggest hurdle that aspiring podcasters have before they get started?
I think a lot would be the fear. And it could be the fear of being in public because some people want to just do the audio. And I think the fact that I had the journey of being extremely shy. I mean, when I say I wasn't really comfortable speaking, I mean, when I was 18, I go into a bar. I wouldn't go up to the bar when it was my round. I'd get my friend to go up. That's how shy I was.
Wow.
So I understand what it's like to be afraid to go on camera. And I can really help people. And that's the difference because you can do just audio. But there's such a percentage, a high percentage of people that listen to both, like Spotify, put stuff on Spotify, both on video and audio. So like I listen to Patrick Bet David on Spotify on the video channel. So
Yeah.
when they're sharing graphs and stuff like that, I see it. So
Yeah.
there's an advantage to that. Or people like to YouTube, BitChute, all these different things. So don't like you want to get as much exposure as you can.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ones is the fair. The other is a kind of thinking it's too technical. I'm not a technical person. Like I simplify everything. Like I have a mic that's Audio Technics, that's a USB. And a lot of people are very good at technology and they'll have the mixer and everything. But I've had calls with a few people that had all the fancy gear, but once something went wrong because they didn't understand it, we have to cancel. So
Right.
if you're that kind of person, yeah, is it better quality? It's not that, there's not much of a difference. And there's a lot of AI enhancements that you can do that you can get the sound very good anyway. But it is very easy. Editing and everything, cut and paste, Audacity, a lot of, and it can be cheap as well. A lot of people think you need a load of money. You can get a
Right.
mic from 50 bucks, 100 bucks, and a lot of free software. And it's just time. The most important thing when I'm going through clients is I set up the expectation. I say, go in for a year because there's such a high percentage of people. They do 3 shows, they do 10 shows, and they're gone. So I tell them straight away, do this for a year, plan it, and don't expect to be like Joe Rogan where you're getting 200 million straight away. That's not reality. You just have to build it as you go along. It's a slow haul, but I think it's more enjoyable in what you actually personally get out of it, even as well as knowing you're helping so many people instead of putting it about the money, only the money.
Yeah, powerfully stated. Roy, you're just dropping so many gems in real time, and we're grateful for it. Now, what advice would you give to podcasters who are the podcasting, they maybe have been doing it for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and they're concerned that their audience is not growing, and they question the relevance of their message and their focus? How would you help them to better brand themselves in such a noisy world where there's so many things capturing our attention? What can a podcaster do to stand out?
So what I do when somebody is an existing podcaster and they ask me, I look at their logo because a lot of, like you'll see you can just see two there now on the screen, but all of mine, I make sure they stick out because what happens is people, they'll go away, they'll design a lovely logo and sometimes they'll have a lot of text. You're looking at this on the iTunes or on Spotify, a tiny little box. So you need to do that and see, does this stick out? Does this grab my attention? That's one of the things. So I've got people to change their logos and they got a big difference from that
Wow.
alone. Another one is like I've got speakingpodcast.com, meditationpodcast.org, the crypto podcast, learn Polish podcast. If you can have a name that's relevant, I know it's not always the case, but when you can have a name, when there's a search engine optimization, it helps. It definitely helps. And I mean, mine have been in, like I've got four to the top 0.5%. All six have been in the top 5%, and I've been number one in a lot of countries. And I think the name has definitely helped in that. So that's another thing that I do. The marketing, like I'd listen to someone's show, and I'll go in and I go, "You're fluffing around." Like you didn't fluff. You just had a quick little chat where I went my phone and bang into it. Because there's no point in saying, oh, what's the weather? Like I've heard of podcasts. I go in and I listen and I say, you're talking about the weather. You're chit chatting for 10 minutes. I said, I'm gone and everyone else is as well.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and I'm not afraid to say it as it is. I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm saying exactly. And do you look at your analytics? I go in and I watch everything. So at one stage, I was inserting an intro, inserting an outro, and my analytics was like fast. It was down, then up, normal, listen, and then down again. There's a percentage that listens to it, but not all. And I was like, okay, so now I just say it as I go along. Instead of doing that, I was watching. I was putting in music at one stage. I had a beatboxer on my Polish one, and
Nice.
it was cool. The guy was 16. He actually was in Toastmasters. He joined under his father because you have to be 18. And I was just, oh, this is good. And nobody said nothing. But when I removed it, I just thought after a few years, about 20 people thanked me for removing it because they hated it.
Wow.
So yeah, so you kind of pay attention to all the different things. And then the marketing as well, how to help a show. Because sometimes people, they'll create their show and they just blast it out there. Or they'll put it on their own Facebook or whatever. And you need to know where you will find your listeners because you think just because they're on your page connected to you on Facebook that they're the right people. And
Right.
that's not the way it is. And there's another one on that as well with YouTube. A lot of people do this. They go to their Facebook group, hey, I've just created my YouTube channel, subscribe to me. Loads are guilty of that. Loads of people come, and I'm always there to help people. And I'm to tell you no, don't ever do that. Because what it is, they're not your listeners.
Right.
If they were their listeners, they would subscribe anyway. And what happens is when you put out a new video, it blasts it out to them.
They don't
Nobody's
watch.
watching it. So
Yeah.
YouTube go, this isn't good. And it's hurting you. And
Yeah.
even though you might go, oh, I've got 1,000 subscribers, if 950 of them are just subscribing because they're your friends, they're actually hurting you. So I kind of look at things like that as well. And for say the Polish one, when I'm doing Facebook, I'm posting to foreigners in Poland, foreigners in Warsaw. Chicago's big. Polish in Chicago, Polish in New York, Polish in Ireland, Polish in UK. 50, there's nearly 50 groups.
Wow.
So I share the episode there, but they're the places. So that's got millions of downloads. And it's because it does take time, yes. Now I have a team that does it, but it's still, it's worth it because they're the people. So you have to find who would be the listeners to my show, who would be potential. And sometimes you have to engage as well. You can't just go to all these platforms on social media and just go, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. That's like all the podcast promoters you probably get. I don't know you getting that yet, but I
Yeah.
get probably 200 a week off them. You know, they're just like, they don't even say hello. Like they
Yeah.
just, it's a cut and paste. They all have the exact same message. So don't do that. You know, just if you can help somebody, someone is writing in a group, just comment and whatever, and also with your guests. I mean, I have it in my form, but to tag them and that you're engaging because
Yeah.
that helps the algorithms. Sometimes you'll send it, you'll learn that, like you sent it to some people, and it's like they weren't even there, or even the conversation, they're just gone straight away.
Right.
But there's others, like there's one now recently that I had, and it was supposed to, like, there's a big backlog, but I'm going to put it out a lot faster. Straight away, he wrote, put pictures of my stuff, had a fantastic conversation, put it everywhere. Like that's the way to do it. You know, it's like he appreciates being on the show and vice versa. So there's all these little things, and you can tell people to do that. Start tagging people and just make sure they're okay. Most people are, because at the end of the day, they're coming on their show to get their message out. So a few little things like that, and eventually the numbers go up. And I would also say, don't be too upset with the numbers, because what happens is, say you go into a room and there's 20 people there. You're going in, you're happy there's 20 people in a room talking to you.
Hmm.
But if you look at your podcast statistics, you go, "Ugh, this is terrible."
Right.
Because you're looking at Mr. Beast, you're looking at Joe Rogan and all these people, and you're seeing the millions. But if there's 20 people, that's 20 listeners, they're listening to your show.
Yeah.
And next week, if there's 20 or 21 or 80, and if you change, appreciate that. Try
Yeah.
to visualize that they're people. Or what I would actually recommend is go on Google or one of these places and just say, okay, a room full of 20 people, a room full of 50. Because when you see a room full of 400, you go, ooh, that's a lot of people. Whereas when you're looking at your stats, you're thinking, this is no good. And just value every single person. And when you start doing that, you'll appreciate everything you're doing, and the numbers will start growing.
That's really good, Roy. Really good. So, of all your podcasts that you've produced and hosted, which podcast would you say that you are most proud of? Is it because of the mission, what you've accomplished, how you help others, how much money you've made? Which podcast would you say is your favorite that you are most proud of?
The Awakening, because that was always the mission, always about, I want to make the world a better place. And I'm putting things out there because I kind of see things, I talk about things 4 years before Joe Rogan.
Ooh.
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff and I'm putting it out there, and I'm understanding what's going on. And like I do a weekly one now with a co-host, and we're doing health, we're doing good news caravan as well, because we have a section on it that's kind of good news. So there's a lot of podcasts out there that are talking about all this crap that's going on in the world. But that's only depressing you. So it's like, what my mission was is give a solution. Okay, if you're saying this, give a solution. And that way, okay, this gives hope to humanity. And so that's the one and it's not about the money, it was always about the mission.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. You don't do it for the income, but for the outcome.
Exactly.
Now, looking ahead, how do you see the future of podcasting with AI integrating every aspect of our lives and future? Where do you see podcasting going?
Well, AI scares me. And you can use it to your advantage. So for example, the Polish one, that's on Podbean, and it gives me a synopsis of the conversation, and it's brilliant. It's really good, but you still have to read it because sometimes it gets a name wrong or gets something wrong. So don't get lazy and just whack it out. Other times, say YouTube, I'd use vidIQ and different ones to get, excuse me, to get a title, and it can give me way better titles than what I come up with. And I'm looking at a search engine optimization score. So for things like that, it's great. As far as people creating podcasts with AI, I mean, I mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. He showed one stage some guy had created a conversation with Joe Rogan and somebody he never interviewed, and you would think it's Joe Rogan
Yeah.
interviewing this guy. So
Yeah.
The level is incredible, even with the crypto, because I have so many shows. I get a lot of beta testers coming to me, and one of the guys was done in a different language. So I did the crypto, like a 5 minute segment in Spanish. It was my voice. It was the other person's voice, but in Spanish.
Wow.
And I sent it to two people I know that are Spanish. One knew it was AI because they just kind of knew I couldn't speak Spanish. And the other, I basically said, hey, is my Spanish good enough to put this episode out? And they believed it. So that shows the level, which is kind of scary. So it can be used. I would hope people won't listen to a podcast created by AI that's just too not and because when we're having a conversation, we're thinking of our life experience, whereas
Right.
the AI is going to be reaching out to the cloud and kind of making up stuff. So it's not great in that way. Plus, AI lies. I've caught it out online a lot of times. People take it for gospel, and they'll do a search or they go, "Hey Alexa, there's so many times it lies," and also with all of the jobs. I mean, I talk about it on the show. I'm worried about it because truck drivers,
Yeah.
cooks, waiters, there's millions, hundreds of millions of jobs that are going to disappear very fast. People don't like, where are these people going? It's like it's going so fast. They've all these robots now that cook for you. I was watching one today. BMW are using it in the car to for their cars. So like with all these tariffs, people coming in
Yep.
and they're saying we're going to have all these car companies coming here. Don't think they're going to be employees because I reckon within a few years they're all robots. And I mean, you could even look at Amazon and everything. So as much as AI can be beneficial for marketing and drafting up letters and like do a bit of research, great. But I don't think it's helping humanity.
Mm. Mm. So, what would you say is the next big thing that Roy is working on? What should we look to come out from you or to come from you in the near future? What do you got cooking in the oven?
Well, I got the virtual assistance business, so that's helping people. And like we kind of do it different to most, because usually people, when they're doing virtual assistance, they get an hourly basis. So when I was doing the podcast, I was getting different people to promote it. There was like Fiverr and Upwork, and everybody would tell you they'll do everything for you. And you're watching it, and it's like, they start off good, and then it's disappearing. Upwork is showing you screenshots, and you're assuming they're promoting your show, but then you kind of look and you go, oh, they're just on Facebook all the time. And I'm convinced a lot of them have a different computer and they're just using the screenshots. So what we do is we tell you what we're doing. We say, okay, we're going to be creating so many shorts, we're going to be posting this, whatever we're doing, whether we're doing CRMs, adding stuff, like there's all different positions we could do, but it's more project based. So then you're not paying attention to be making sure we're doing what we're doing because we
Mm-hmm.
know what we have to do. And it's in our interest to make sure that we do it so that you continue to be a client. So that's one of the things that I'm building. And the other one is the brain gym. You can see that above me. It's partnered with Arnold Bex. He's a Dutch guy. He's been working on this for over 20 years. And loads of people, they'll go to the gym and they'll start working on their bodies. But are you working on the mind? And, the way Alzheimer's and everything is going on, need to be paying attention to that. And
Mm.
it's just kind of how to develop your mind and critical thinking. And they're the things that I'm excited about. And I kind of put everything about that I work with is kind of project based.
That's amazing. That's important. Brain gym fitness. I love that. I love that. So, Roy, if someone's listening to this episode or watching and they're on the fence about whether they should start a podcast or not, what advice would you give to them and what encouragement could you give them to light a fire in them to start a podcast?
If you have a skill set that you can share or a message, just do it. And as I said earlier, if it touches someone's life, so like if you can help, say, alcoholics, people with addictions, or like anything that's going to make the world a better place, and you help one family, and you mightn't see the ripple effect, you owe it yourself to do it. And trust me, there's such joy in having the conversations. It doesn't become a chore. It becomes something that you talk to people, you enjoy the conversation, you learn from each other, and you'll end up actually sometimes doing business with each other. It's a beautiful way of communicating, and it takes you away from sitting down looking at the goggle box, because it's better for you to have a decent conversation with someone, even if it's virtually, because it's still great. It
Yeah,
feels like we're next to each other,
right.
as opposed to just sitting down and going through the TV channel. So,
Right.
and it is not difficult. Do not fear it. It is very easy. And depending on your budgets, you can do it. You don't have to go away. I mean, obviously I'm coaching, but you don't have to. You can start from nothing. There's videos out there. You just put in the time, go away, get a few books, and you'll be able to do it. If you're on a shoestring budget, don't make that be your excuse.
Yeah, love it, love it. So, how can people connect with you? Website, social media pages, anything you want to shout out for folks to find you? Please let the folks know how they can connect with you.
So my website is roycoughlan.com. My LinkedIn is Roy Coughlan. My Facebook is Roy Coughlan. So I've been an early adapter for a lot of them. Virtual assistants is va.world. And Brain Gym, you might be able to see it off my head, braingym.fitness. That's where you'll find me on everything.
Amazing. Thank you, Roy, for being a guest on the Leverage Your Influence podcast, where we hear stories of leaders, creators, and entrepreneurs who have leveraged their influence, income, and impact through podcasting. We'll see you all on next time.
Thank you.